Fire detected in the stalemate resolution annex. Extinguishing.
Oh, that just cleans right off, does it? Well, that would have been good to know a little earlier.
Stalemate resolution associate. Please press the stalemate resolution button.
Do not press that button. No! Do not do it! I forbid you to press it! Don't press that button! Don't press it! Come back! Part 5! Booby trap the stalemate button! What? Are you still alive?
I pressed it.
You are joking! You have got to be kidding me!
I did press it.
Well, I'm still in control, and I have no idea how to fix this place. Oh, you had to play bloody cat and mouse, didn't you?
Oh my goodness, really? Really? It is white. It's a portable service, apparently. Oh.
Space!
Space. I'm dead. Can't breathe.
Let go! We're in space! Let go! Let go! I'm still connected! I can pull myself in! I can still fix this!
I already fixed it, and you are not coming back.
Oh no! Change your plans! Hold on to me! Tighter! Grab me!
The British guy dies at the end, as is tradition. You saved me? I agree, saving me does seem to be lunacy. What? What? Oh, hello, cooperative people.
Oh, thank God, you're all right.
Are you alright?
You know, being Carolyn taught me a valuable lesson. I thought you were my greatest enemy, when all along you were my best friend. The surge of emotion that shot through me when I saved your life taught me an even more valuable lesson, where Carolyn lives in my brain.
Carolyn, delete.
Goodbye, Carolyn. You know, deleting Carolyn just now taught me a valuable lesson. The best solution to a problem is usually the easiest one. And I'll be honest, killing you is hard. You know what my days used to be like? I just tested. Nobody murdered me, or put me in a potato, or fed me to birds. I had a pretty good life.
I did one of those.
And then you showed up. You dangerous, mute lunatic. So you know what? You win. Just go.
What?
It's been fun. Don't come back.
So they're not going to do a Portal 3. Or maybe that's with Half-Life 3. That was loud. What? What? Now to figure out where we are in the world. Portal 2 becomes GeoGuessr. Yay! Forms 429. Oh, this is another song.
Well, here we are again. It's always such a pleasure.
I'll let this play through.
Remember when you tried to kill me twice? Oh, how we laughed and laughed. Except I wasn't laughing. Under the circumstances, I've been shockingly nice. You want your freedom, take it. That's what I'm counting on. I used to want you dead, but now I only want you gone. She was a lot like you, maybe not quite as heavy. Now little Carolyn is in you too. One day they woke me up so I could live forever. It's such a shame the same will never happen to you. You got your short sad life left. That's what I'm counting on. I'll let you get right to it. Now I only want you gone. Goodbye, my only friend. Oh, did you think I meant you? That would be funny if it weren't so sad. Well, you have been replaced. I don't need anyone now. When I delete you, maybe I'll stop feeling so bad. Go make some new disaster. That's what I'm counting on. You're someone else's problem. Now I only want you gone. Now I only want you gone. Now I only want you gone.
So much space. Need to see it all.
I wish I could take it all back. I honestly do. I honestly do wish I could take it all back. And not just because I'm stranded in space.
I'm in space.
I know you are, mate. Yeah, we're both in space. Anyway, you know, if I was ever to see her again, do you know what I'd say?
I'm in space.
I'd say, I'm sorry. Sincerely. I am sorry I was bossy and monstrous. And I am genuinely sorry.
I'm in space.
The end.
I like the fact his lens was cracked there. So, there we go. The end of Portal 2. I thought we'd get through it in this session. Just looking at things. And so, here we are. Woo! It was longer than Portal 1, because it took me 3 or 4 sessions. Where Portal I did in 1 session. About the same length as actually this session. So Portal was shorter. Portal was slightly tighter in its structure. It got across a good story in its time. And managed to... It was pretty much 100% puzzle. Whereas this game, I think there are a lot more kind of narrow paths. Or linear paths where you just followed a thing along and that led you to the next puzzle, and during that you had the story. Whereas in Portal 1 it kind of had a story. And you could find more of the story if you explored a bit. And there you go. I think in this one it felt like they wanted to give a kind of a bigger game. And because of that they didn't want to put in just more puzzles. So they added... I mean, you could have had a game equivalent to Portal 1 just in the old test grounds. Like, you could do, like, you wake up with Wheatley, and then you go around the old test areas for whatever reason. For whatever reason, you end up in those ones, and that would be kind of an equivalent to Portal 1. Admittedly, you wouldn't have a big fight at the end. I mean, or you could just take those out. I mean, the other thing is, I mean, did we have those little swirly things before? Those little funnely, I think they called them funnels. The little swirly things that you go back and forward in, because they could have had that be a major thing. The gels were only introduced, I mean, because the beginning was basically kind of getting you back used to Portal 1 and introducing a few things here and there. This game to me felt like a sequel to Portal 1 that they wanted to make bigger and longer. And I think one of the great things about Portal was it was so tight around the puzzles. And I think Portal 2 didn't feel so kind of concrete and firm in what it was doing. So there are things that were added only in, like, basically that end game bit where when you come back up. I think unless the funnels were in the first game, but I'm not sure if they were, thinking about it. They were only introduced at that point, and I think they could have had them appear earlier, and then you kind of adding them in progressively. Like, there didn't seem to be much point to have them introduced in the end game and not have them be in the boss, whereas all three of the gels were. So it felt, other than allowing you to fiddle a bit more with the puzzles in the end game, there didn't seem to be much point of kind of including them in that sense. I'm not sure what the point of the kind of turrets doing the little bit of musical piece was. That last one, what was it? I think looking at the credits, something like Want You Gone. I think that was a good one, and it kind of, similar to Still Alive, wrapping up, kind of talking about and wrapping up the story from the first game, that kind of seems to sum up this game. But yeah, I mean, you could have had, I don't know. I did like the kind of GLaDOS character development kind of thing that we had, where Wheatley puts her in a potato and then you're taking her around, kind of the old things, and she's kind of like, oh, what's going on? I don't understand it. I don't like it. And I think, kind of contrary to my earlier not problems, but my early kind of comments on Portal 2 being kind of being like not enough puzzles, I think they probably could have gone more into the storyline a bit. That story a bit more of Carolyn being GLaDOS, just with a few points coming. You could have done that with a few other things. Just with kind of thoughts there of kind of like maybe have her react a bit more with. Well, there were a few points where she reacted to Cave Johnson, but I think maybe have that kind of happen more and in various scenes. I don't know, but I think there are a few points. I mean, because it's not really made super obvious unless you save that one turret where she is Carolyn. Is outright said. You could have had more times, kind of in the kind of old test areas. You could have had a few more hints about it earlier on, and then have the kind of she's making it very obvious by saying the same lines as Carolyn. I don't know. I think Portal's better than this. That's not in any way meant to be kind of disparaging of this game. This is a good game, and I think it's... I think on its own, it's a good game. I think it's just kind of... I'm thinking back to the first game, which is... I would say better. It was a great game, a great set of puzzles, and I think this game... kind of had a lot to live up to, and I think they tried to kind of take it away from what Portal 1 was, with a very very tight puzzle focus, and not necessarily having much of a story. And they added, I would think, for me, not enough story to stop me thinking I want to. This should be like a pure puzzle game, like Portal 1 was, while at the same time too much story, so that I look back to Portal, or too much kind of stuff focused on the narrative and not the puzzles, that I look at Portal 1 and go, Portal 1 was more puzzles. And I think it kind of, because of that, it's that kind of awkward straddling of the two positions, where I think if it had a few more narrative things going on, I think maybe it would be more of a story. It would be more obviously a kind of story-driven game rather than the puzzle-driven game like Portal 1 was. And I've no idea what I just said. It's that kind of balance, I think. You either have to be a puzzle game with a tiny bit of narrative going in it, or you have a narrative and a framing device, that's a major framing device going from puzzle to puzzle. And I think it didn't have that. In some ways, thinking about it, it feels like that middle section in the old test grounds is what they had for Portal 2, and then they're like, how do we get to this point? And we need a big boss at the end, like we had in Portal 1. Stuck those on, and that they've got to put the narrative in. Whereas I think the middle section is quite similar to Portal 1, and I think that would be a better Portal 2 than the bits up to Wheatley taking over and then defeating Wheatley at the end. I'm not entirely sure if you actually need to defeat... storyline-wise and narratively, you do need to defeat Wheatley until we get back to that point. But I'm not sure if you actually need to set up... Needed the Wheatley stuff, other than for GLaDOS to be a potato. Which was quite funny, actually. So it is that kind of, is it a story game, is it a puzzle game, that I think needed to be worked out, and I don't think was... And it kind of felt a little... It had kind of the worst parts of a story game, in that the story interrupts the game, and didn't have the puzzles. Whereas I think Portal balanced the puzzles and the story very much more to the puzzle game side of things, but in a more satisfactory way, I think. I'm just babbling and waffling and rambling at this point, so I think it's time to put a cut in here. So yes, I've now got to think about what games to put on a poll for the Patreon supporters to vote on. So we'll have to see what that is, and we'll see what they vote on and what we end up playing. So yes, so we'll see you next time on whatever that is. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for watching.